My name is Mark Chalmers. I'm President and CEO of Energy Fuels, here to talk to you about uranium and vanadium. There could be some forward-looking statements. Those are attached at the end of the presentation. Look at just some investment themes for Energy Fuels, a U.S.-focused investment. We were the #1 producer of uranium last year, and we have a large portfolio of assets that are available and ready to respond quicker and faster than anyone else in improved market conditions. We're also the newest vanadium producer in North America. We're very proud of that. I think Largo down in South America and us are the only two primary vanadium producers in the Americas, but we have a long history of producing vanadium. Both uranium and vanadium are growth areas, and so we fill a very unique role when it comes to energy and energy independence over time. Our company and UR Energy also launched a Section 232 investigation for uranium imports in the United States, and we proposed a quota, not a tariff, and buy uranium, and we're very excited about that. We think we'll get some indications of whether relief will be given this year. We don't know exactly what it will be or if it will be, but we think there's a good probability that there will be relief given. Our company also has some other ways of generating revenue, so we're much more diversified than a uranium-only play, even though uranium is first and foremost our core business. But we also do recycling of low-level radioactive materials. And for example, last year we did about 500,000 pounds of recycle, which is quite substantial. That's a reactor worth. And we did about 1 million pounds a year before that. And we have a very strong cash and working capital position of about $50 million, which is a big differentiator from our peers. We have a large footprint from Wyoming down to Texas. We have the stars on that map are sites that can actually produce yellow cake, and 2 of them are in situ recovery, and 1 is the conventional mill. The last operable mill in the United States is also uranium and vanadium, and we have a host of projects that surround these facilities. The Nichols Ranch is an ISR project in Wyoming. It's currently producing. It's ready to go for a ramp up or an increase in uranium prices. We've got 34 permitted areas ready to go at higher prices. We also have the Ultime Mesa ISR facility, which is on care and maintenance. It's also ready to go, but it is not producing. We're looking at doing a drill program in 2019 to define more resources there. Had license capacity of 1.5 million pounds, and Nichols Ranch has license capacity of 2 million pounds. Canyon Mine in Arizona, I was involved with this project back in the 80s. Very small, but it's a momentum project. Very small, but it has a very concentrated, high-grade, nearly 1% uranium resource, and it has a very small but very high-grade copper resource of nearly 6%. White Mesa Mill. Now, this has become a real flagship for the company because it's the last operable mill in the United States. It survived the test of time. It was built in like 79 and 80 because it was very flexible. And as I talked earlier, it's a uranium plant for conventional ores, but it also recovers vanadium and these other areas that I talked about, the recycling of low-level materials. And it's currently producing vanadium. And we started up the vanadium plant. We started it up at the end of 2018. Vanadium certainly got a lot of interest last year. It went up to nearly $30 a pound. It's back to about $16, $17 a pound, which is still a very good value for vanadium. And White Mesa Mill, over its life of 40 years or so, has produced 45 million pounds of vanadium. So this is not new to this facility. So we produced vanadium in the past, and we're currently producing it now. And we've got a host of vanadium projects surrounding the mill. Many of those mines were owned by Union Carbide, who was one of the biggest producers of vanadium for a number of decades. And the La Salle complex, we currently are mining the LaSalle complex, applying some new technology, just using portable XRFs, which are giving us some really excellent results that we'll report on in the next, probably next month or two to the market. Here's a couple drums of our first vanadium that we actually produced at the beginning of the year. And as I said, we're currently continuing on with that. We've got a first initial phase, which is about 4 million pounds of recoverable vanadium. We plan to try to produce that about 200 to 225,000 pounds a month. This is, again, a differentiator because nobody else can do this in this type of market, at least in the uranium producers. And we plan to make hay while the vanadium prices are still high. There's another picture of vanadium. A little bit on the 232, because I think there's some misunderstandings on what actually we've done here. But UR Energy and Energy Fuels filed the petition in January of a year ago, and they initiated it in July. We've asked for, as I said earlier, a quota. 25% should be set aside for U.S. uranium production and Buy American. The time clock started. The time clock is supposed to end for the Department of Commerce to submit their report to the President, which would be April 14th, which is not that far off. The government shutdown has thrown in a few curveballs. We're not exactly sure how that impacts that timeline. But once the Department of Commerce issues a report, the President has up to 90 days to make a decision. The thing about it is, again, we're not proposing tariffs. People who say we're proposing tariffs is not correct. A quota focused on production. Okay. Just a quick slide of where we sit with our peers. We've got huge optionality that our peers don't have because we have both a uranium producer, a vanadium producer, ISR, conventional, and we have this other sources of revenue generation at low level. I mentioned we have a very strong balance sheet. We paid down debt in 2018. We trade about 4 million US a day liquidity, so we've got very good at liquidity on the New York Stock Exchange and the TSE. Most of our shares trade on the NYSE. But we have unmatched ability to respond to increased uranium prices and 232. We have more facilities, more resources, more capability. We're the only primary producer of vanadium, strong working capital and limited debt, and we have the alternate feed, which is a real plus to generate revenues in down markets. So thank you very much.